Hey guys, what's up? Chris Blum here, and welcome back to the channel where we discuss personal finance, investing, real estate, and productivity. And in the realm of productivity, I am someone that loves to explore life hacking and understanding how others set up the routines and schedules for the day. So I thought I would do something a little bit different today and go over my morning routine and answer the question, is it worth it to get up at 5:30 in the morning?
Wow.
So before I dive in, let me give a little bit of background into the genesis of this experiment. As I mentioned, I love life hacking. I listen to Tim Ferriss, Guy Raz, and How I Built This, Matt D'Avella, and Thomas Frank on YouTube, and really love researching, hearing about, and understanding how different people set up their days and their morning routines. And one habit that is continually perpetuated and is in books such as The Morning Miracle, which I have read and will probably review for this channel, is getting up early and getting an early start to your day. So perhaps it was just wanting to try something novel during this whole pandemic, but I did decide about 3 weeks ago to bite the bullet and start getting up at 5:30 a.m. And actually, to be precise, I'm getting up at 5:20 a.m. so that I can make sure that I am out the door by 5:30 a.m. So before I go over my new morning routine, let me, for comparison's sake, go over my old morning routine. So again, this was during the pandemic, but I got into the routine of waking up a little bit later than usual, perhaps around 8 a.m. And I would start by getting up and going on a run. I usually run about 3 miles, so that would take about 30 minutes. Then I would come home, shower, make coffee, and sit down at my desk to do a little bit of goal setting and journaling. This would take me until about 9 or 9:30, at which point I could no longer ignore the work emails I was getting and had to dive into my workday. My workday would carry me until about 6 p.m., at which point my girlfriend would get home and we would make dinner, eat together, take our dog for a walk, and relax, watching TV or reading, until she went to bed at about 10 p.m. And then from 10 p.m. until about 12, and some nights 1 a.m., I would work on my side projects and my creative endeavors. So I was cognizant of the fact that I didn't want to lose this creative time, so I would need to replace it in the morning if I was getting up early. So my new morning routine looks something like this. I get up at 5:20 a.m. on the first ring of the alarm so as not to annoy my girlfriend who's sleeping next to me. I go outside and I'm usually running by about 5:30 a.m. Again, this is about a 30-minute run, and I do try to listen to audiobooks during this time just to get a little more information and things that I can think about throughout the day. I get home and shower and make my coffee, and now I'm usually at my desk by about 6:30 a.m. Again, it's important to me to write down my goals and to journal, and so I will do that until about 7 a.m. And then I end up with a similar period of about 2 hours from 7 to 9, which is for my side hustles, my creative endeavors, anything that's not directly related to my normal working hours. Then at some point, I end up starting my workday and work until about 6. I go through the same evening routine with my girlfriend and end up going to bed now around 10:30 p.m. So I'm still getting about 7 hours of sleep either way, and I'm still having some time set aside for creative endeavors. Really, the only thing that has shifted is that I have moved it earlier in the day. So here are my thoughts, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I will start with the pros. And number one, which is a little bit silly, is that it does provide a little bit of an ego boost to know that you are up before most people are awake.
What's that? You think you're better than me?
You're tackling your day, you have the discipline to get up early and get started, and that makes decisions later in the day easier because you know that you've already risen to the occasion and done something difficult starting in the morning. Number two that I found is that it does provide more time for deep thinking, or a way that I've heard it referred to, I think it was an Ali Abdul video, but referring to it as engineering thinking. So the thinking goes that you have two thought processes that allow you to accomplish things in your life. Number one is the engineer mindset, and that is coming up with the habits, laying out the foundations for how you are going to go about your life and what your priorities are. And number two is the worker mindset, and that is the part of you that actually goes and fulfills those tasks and habits and does the work. So when you wake up later in the morning, you may be right up against that first meeting. You don't have time to think critically or lay out a plan for your week, for your month, for your year, and set your priorities. You're kind of just jumping right in. And because of that, you can lose some of the context and some of the bigger picture thinking that can allow you to more creatively and better solve problems. Number three is that it allows for more spontaneity. So in the last few weeks, I have found time to call my parents more often in the morning. They're in a later time zone, call friends, and really just have conversations that don't relate to the normal workday during the work week. Before, this would be relegated to weekends or to evenings, and we all know that it's easy to run out of time and get busy. So these mornings have allowed me to take some of that back and have a little bit of spontaneity in my life If I feel like doing an extra workout in the morning, I have time. If I feel like reading a book, I have time. If I feel like watching a movie, I have time to do that. And I think there is something nice about being able to have a relaxing morning that is not tied to the day ahead. Number 4, and probably the reason that is most often cited, is that it gives more time for the creation of productive habits. So again, very often people say that they don't have time to exercise, they don't have time to read, they don't have time to write down their goals. These things that we all know are very important to finding success and understanding what is important to ourselves. So by getting up very early in the morning, you take away that excuse. You have the time and nothing can get in your way. When you get up later, you can have that meeting that's starting right away, or you can have some emergency that comes up and makes it to where you can't go to the gym. And if you're someone that works out in the evening, life happens and something can come up that prevents you from going to the gym. Well, when you put it first thing in the morning, it's much less likely that something's going to come up. So you have found time for yourself and the habits that are important early in the day, and that way you make sure that they are going to get done and you make sure that you're going to stick to them. And one warning I would give here is to try not to take on too many new habits at once. So for myself, when I decided I was going to try to get up early, I was already running every morning. I was already journaling every morning. And so the shift was really just the time that I was doing it and getting up earlier, not trying to take on a bunch of new habits at once. I'm a strong believer that to reach success, it's all about setting the right habits and then sticking with those habits to allow it to take you to where you want to go. But it does take about 10 weeks to form a new habit. And if you try to take on too many things at once, it will be too difficult and you may end up giving up on all of them instead of finding one habit, really digging in and making it part of your life. And then when the time comes, you can add a new habit to your life. For example, running for me used to be something that was difficult to motivate myself to do, but at this point, it's almost something that I don't even think about. In fact, when I write down my goals for the week and what I want to do every day, running isn't even something that makes the list. It's very important to me. It has just become such a part of my life that I don't even have to think about it. Creating this time for yourself in the morning is also super important as you move through life and take on more responsibilities. I'm still young, I don't have kids, and I have a pretty flexible job. But as you take on more responsibilities in your life, be it through your job or your family, it becomes harder and harder to find time for exercise, for reading, just for personal time. And by starting the habit early in your life of getting up early, you'll make sure that these habits can continue on throughout your life and through the changes that will come as you go through life. Okay, now I'm gonna move into some of the negatives. And like I said, I have enjoyed it, I think I'll keep doing it, but not everything about it has been perfect. And probably the biggest thing that I have found to be challenging is actually making myself do those creative endeavors or side hustles in the morning. It can become so easy to get sucked into wanting to make use of that time to get set up for the day and be productive and set up meetings and write down to-do lists and kind of get into the granular engineering thinking that I talked about before, that you don't actually let yourself just do things. Because you've created this extra time to think big and to plan, at least personally, I found myself spending a lot of the time planning and not actually doing. What I really enjoyed about having the time late at night after everyone had gone to bed was that I had no responsibilities, no one was looking for me to do anything, and I could really just get into a creative endeavor. And continuing in that fashion, if I got really sucked into a project, there was no harm in continuing it and staying up late, except that maybe I was going to be a little groggy in the morning. Versus this new schedule I've set up for myself, where all of the work and the creative processes are in the morning, there does reach a time where people start emailing me and calling me and need me to take on my normal work duties, and I can't put them off any longer. So like I said, I have about a 2-hour window versus before when I was doing it in the evenings. If I got super engrossed in something or was super interested in something, I could continue on for an hour, 2 hours beyond the normal schedule to finish or to keep seeing where that path went. And to continue on a thought that I mentioned previously, it can become super easy, at least for myself, to create very rigid outlines. So I'm gonna journal for 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna write down my goals for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna go through the people I need to email today, to the point that you don't allow for that spontaneity that you intended in the first place. And so for me, I've really had to step back and try to not use these mornings as a very rigid process, and to allow myself more creativity and to really get back some of that time to read and to think about some of the bigger picture ideas that I maybe wasn't having enough time for before. And I also think, going back to the positives, that taking in information in the morning, be it through reading or podcasts or journaling, allows you to process all this information and then be able to respond with that in mind to problems, challenges, and questions that come up through the day. I'm a big believer that we are a reflection of the information that we take in and those that we surround ourselves by. So if you take in this information early in the day and you read about current events and you read about history and you really take time to process these ideas, it will allow you to respond in a much more meaningful way to the challenges and questions that come up in your daily life. So all of this said, I do not think that the perfect morning routine exists. I think it's something that has to be constantly iterated, and you have to allow yourself some flexibility to address what each individual day requires. Some days are going to be a more rigid schedule. Other days you may need to jump straight into a project or respond to something that someone else needs from you. But I do think that getting up early has allowed myself extra time to think creatively, think about the big picture, and set up my day for success. So I will be continuing to do it at least for a few more weeks to see if the habit sets in and if I'm able to work through some of the issues that I've faced. But let me know what you think. When do you get up? What does your morning schedule look like? And do you think that you could get up at 5:30 in the morning? As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and you made it to this point, consider subscribing for more content like this video and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. I will leave all of my social media links below and would love to connect with you to discuss.